Some places drain you without touching you. You walk in with fire in your heart, you walk out cold. I'm talking about cities that look alive but are spiritually dead. Places where distraction, temptation, and fear run the streets. And here's the truth. You can live there without even knowing it. Today, I'll break down 5 U.S. cities so spiritually toxic you must avoid them or escape them if you're already there. But this isn't about geography, it's about energy. Because if you're not careful, the wrong environment will rob you of the focus, discipline, and courage you need to win. Stay until the end. I'll give you a 30-day escape plan to rebuild your mind, your habits, and your mission. It works anywhere. It starts today. Some battles don't make noise. They don't come with flashing lights or warning signs. They creep in quietly. They change the way you think, the way you move, the way you dream. That's the kind of battle most people lose. Not because they're weak, but because they never knew it was happening. I had a friend who was ambitious, sharp, and hungry. He grew up in a small town dreaming of something bigger. When he finally got the chance, he moved to a city with promise in its skyline and opportunity in its streets. At least, that's what he thought. For the first few months, everything felt alive. New people, new places, new energy. But slowly, things began to shift. His mornings got later. His goals got quieter. And the fire that once drove him started to dim. The strange part? He didn't notice it. Not at first. He thought he was just adjusting, taking it easy, finding his rhythm. But what was really happening was far more dangerous. The city had a rhythm of its own, and it was pulling him into step. Late nights replaced early mornings. Small talk replaced deep conversations. Social media likes replaced personal progress. Before long, the man who once couldn't wait to attack the day was hitting snooze until noon. You see, the hidden enemy is not always a person. It's the environment you choose or tolerate. And here's the truth most people ignore. Your environment will shape you faster than your willpower will save you. You can have all the discipline in the world, but if you keep planting yourself in poisoned soil, you will not grow. Think about a seed. It doesn't get to decide whether it grows straight and tall or weak and twisted. The soil decides, the water decides, the sunlight decides. You're that seed. And if you're in a place where the air is heavy with negativity, where the ground is dry of ambition, and where the people have given up on becoming more, you will start to match it. The worst part, it happens without you realizing it. You'll call it blending in. You'll call it fitting the culture. But really, it's erosion. Erosion of the mind. Erosion of the soul. And it doesn't matter how smart you are or how strong you think you are. If you're surrounded by people who live without vision, you'll stop looking ahead. If you're surrounded by people who waste their hours, you'll stop valuing yours. If you're surrounded by people who fear change, you'll start fearing it too. This is why people underestimate the power of location. They think moving to a better city is about cost of living, jobs, or weather. No, it's about the spiritual climate. It's about the unseen forces that either push you toward greatness or keep you locked in mediocrity. And in some places, mediocrity isn't just common, it's celebrated. That's why my friend didn't stand a chance, not until he saw it for what it was. He was waiting for his discipline to overpower his environment. But discipline is like a candle in the wind. It can burn bright in still air, but put it in the wrong storm, and it's gone. The same thing might be happening to you. Maybe you've been wondering why you're tired all the time, even when you're not working that hard. Maybe your goals feel distant, even though you're doing fine. Maybe the people around you say they support you, but they never challenge you. That's not support. That's slow death. The first step to winning your fight is to identify your battlefield. Ask yourself, is where I live feeding me or draining me? Do I leave my house more inspired or more distracted? Are the people around me running toward their goals or running from them? If you don't like the answers, you're already in danger. Because the hidden enemy has one mission: to make you comfortable enough to stop growing and distracted enough to not notice. And here's the harsh truth. You can't beat that enemy with more motivation videos, more coffee, or more pep talks. You beat it by changing your soil. If you can't physically move yet, you start by building an invisible wall, protecting your mind, your time, your energy. You cut out the voices that poison your vision. You spend less time with the people who joke about your goals. You get intentional about the places you spend your hours. Because if you don't, your story will look just like my friends. Full of promise at the start, full of excuses at the end. And I don't want that for you. You can have all the talent in the world, but if your environment is hostile to growth, it will crush you. The hidden enemy is real. The question is, will you see it before it's too late? When I say demonic spirits, I'm not talking about some Hollywood horror scene. I'm talking about forces that don't need to touch your body to destroy your life. They attack your focus. They infect your mindset. They convince you to trade purpose for pleasure and long-term vision for short-term comfort. You've seen it. Maybe you've even felt it. You walk into a certain place and the air feels heavy. People move slower. Conversations are shallow. You notice laughter, but it's the empty kind, the kind that hides pain. And after a while, you realize you've been sitting there for hours doing nothing that moves you forward. That's not just bad luck. That's an atmosphere. And every atmosphere carries a spirit, either one that builds or one that destroys. The most dangerous spirits aren't loud. They don't come running at you screaming. They slip in quietly, wearing the mask of normal life. They show up as gossip in the break room. They show up as another night out that leaves you too tired to work on your dream. They show up as just one more episode at 2 a.m. They make destruction look like fun and progress look like work you can do later. Here's the truth. A demonic spirit is any force that pulls you away from becoming who you're called to be. Sometimes it's a person. Sometimes it's a habit. Sometimes it's an entire city that celebrates the very things that keep people average. You stay in it long enough, and you'll start to call your chains freedom. I've watched people with all the potential in the world get caught in this trap. One guy I knew had the discipline of a soldier, waking up at 5, working on his business before the sun came up, staying off social media during the day. Then he moved to a city where everyone lived for the weekend. At first, he resisted, but slowly weekends started on Thursdays. Then Wednesday nights. Before long, his mornings disappeared. His business stalled. He started saying, I'm just living a little, but he wasn't living. He was slowly dying in a city that fed on his distraction. That's how these spirits work. They don't hit you head on. They wear you down. They convince you that a little compromise won't hurt. They tell you that you can make up for lost time later. And then one day you wake up and realize you've been standing still for years. If you've ever wondered why certain places feel harder to stay disciplined in, it's because the collective mindset of that place has weight. If everyone around you laughs at ambition, ambition feels strange. If everyone spends recklessly, saving feels boring. If everyone fears change, you'll start thinking change is dangerous. That's not just peer pressure. That's a spirit at work, molding you to match the environment. You need to understand this. You're not just fighting your own weaknesses. You're fighting the collective weaknesses of everyone around you. And if that collective is infected with greed, apathy, chaos, or fear, you need to either get out or get strong enough to be the wall it can't climb. So when I say a city is infested, I don't mean ghosts in the alleys. I mean a culture a mindset, a spiritual current so strong it will carry you downstream if you're not anchored. You might think you're just living your life, but in reality, you're being pulled either toward your calling or away from it. The question you have to ask yourself is simple. What spirit runs the streets where you live? Is it ambition or apathy? Is it discipline or distraction? Is it love or fear? Because whatever it is, you're breathing it in every single day. There's a kind of city that looks harmless. It's clean, it's safe, the rent's affordable, the weather's nice, people smile at you in the grocery store. On the surface, it feels like the perfect place to live. But under that surface, there's a silent danger that has ruined more lives than crime or poverty ever could. Comfort. Comfort doesn't sound dangerous until you realize what it does to ambition. When you're comfortable, you stop reaching. You stop pushing. You stop hungering for more because good enough feels easier. And if you stay in that state long enough, your dreams will shrink to fit your environment. I know a guy who moved to one of these perfect cities. He told me he finally felt at peace. No more stress, no more chaos, just slow mornings, quiet nights, and plenty of time. I thought that sounded great until I visited him a year later. The man who used to attack life with urgency was now taking 3 days to do something he once finished in an afternoon. He used to talk about building a business. Now, he talked about his new couch. That's the problem with comfort. It doesn't kill you fast. It sedates you. It turns ambition into something you used to have. It gives you just enough pleasure to forget you're not growing. And in certain cities, that comfort is everywhere. People aren't running toward goals. They're walking in circles, telling themselves they're living the good life while time slips away. It's like being in a warm bath. At first, it's relaxing. Then you notice you're getting sleepy. Before you know it, you've been sitting there for hours. The water's cold and you've wasted half the day. Comfort works the same way. It lulls you into believing you have all the time in the world until one day you realize you don't. If you live in a city like this, you have to fight harder than most to keep your urgency alive. You have to set deadlines for yourself and stick to them. You have to create pressure where there is none. Because if you don't, the atmosphere will convince you that tomorrow is always an option. And that's the biggest lie comfort will ever tell you. Some people think danger only lives in places with crime and chaos. But I've seen more dreams die in quiet, peaceful cities than anywhere else. Why? Because chaos wakes you up. Comfort puts you to sleep. So ask yourself, are you in a place that challenges you to grow or one that makes it easy to stay the same? Because if your environment never forces you to stretch, you will stop stretching on your own. And that's how good people slowly waste great potential. Some cities wear chaos like a badge of honor. The streets pulse with noise, the nightlife never sleeps, and distraction is celebrated as freedom. People rush from party to party, event to event, as if motion alone is progress. But here's the thing. Constant movement without direction is the fastest way to destroy a life. I once met a young professional who moved to a city like this. At first, it was exhilarating. The lights, the music, the energy, it felt alive. Every night brought a new adventure. Every weekend brought another story. But the fire that drove him toward his goals started burning out. Instead of building skills, he was burning energy. Instead of chasing dreams, he was chasing experiences. He thought excitement was living. It wasn't. It was distraction disguised as life. Chaos is addictive because it tricks the mind into thinking busy equals productive. People love to fill their hours with noise because it feels important. Social media, bars, late night events, endless scrolling, all of it convinces you that if you move fast enough, you're winning. But real growth requires stillness, focus, intentional action. Chaos does the opposite. It scatters you. In these cities, you'll see it everywhere. Ambition is drowned out by the collective need for instant pleasure. Conversations revolve around gossip, not goals. Friendships are built on shared distraction, not shared vision. If you're not careful, you'll start thinking this chaos is normal, even healthy. And then you'll forget what it feels like to pursue something that lasts longer than the weekend. The danger of chaos is that it burns you out slowly. One late night becomes two. One missed morning becomes a week of wasted potential. One small indulgence becomes a lifestyle. Before long, the energy that should be building your dreams is spent keeping up appearances. You're exhausted, scattered, and still empty. But here's the point: you can't always leave. Sometimes life puts you in a noisy, chaotic environment. So you have two choices. Let it consume you, or control your focus like a fortress. Protect your mornings. Guard your mind. Treat every hour like a seed you plant for growth, because in chaos, discipline is a rebellion and focus is a weapon. Cities that celebrate chaos don't just steal your time, they steal your clarity. They steal your courage. They make ambition feel unnatural. And that's why so many people leave with nothing but memories and regret. You can live there and still win, but only if you decide every day what energy you will allow to touch you. Some cities are obsessed with appearances. The skyline dazzles, the cars gleam, and everyone's life looks perfect through a carefully curated lens. Social media isn't just a pastime, it's the standard by which people measure worth. In these places, what you look like often matters more than what you do. And if you're not careful, you start buying into it. I knew a young entrepreneur who moved to one of these cities, hungry to make a name for himself. He worked tirelessly, but almost immediately he felt the pressure to fit in. He upgraded his wardrobe, spent more on dinners, and showcased a lifestyle he hadn't yet earned. It wasn't about his business anymore, it was about appearances. His energy shifted from creating real value to maintaining a facade. And that's the trap. Chasing image burns your resources, your time, and eventually your soul. The danger of image obsession is subtle. It doesn't shout, it seduces. People around you start measuring success in likes, followers, or flashy possessions instead of impact, progress, or skill.